informative, compelling, exciting, and breathtaking experience with Kakaaki, the African voice.
All right, the Steering Committee on Reforms, of course, was inaugurated by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and of course, he is the chairman of that steering committee. How large is the membership of this steering committee, and what is the mandate of the committee?
Okay, let me start by correcting something you said earlier, which is that we used to report to the Secretary to Government, and we now report through the Office of the Head of Service. It's actually the other way around. So we used to report through the Office of the Head of Service. We now report to Mr. President through the Secretary to Government. Okay. Now, the Secretary to Government chairs this Steering Committee on Reforms, whose role is essentially to be the policy development and approval body for the Bureau. So maybe if you were looking at the Bureau of Public Procurement, you could compare it to the National Council on Privatization. So this is almost the National Council on Reforms. So it's chaired by the Head of Service. It's chaired by the Secretary to Government. The Head of Service is the Vice Chairman. It has all the people that work in the center whose work affects the way the public services operate and behave. So you have the Accountant General of the Federation, you have the Auditor General, you have the Chairman of the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission because of the issues of pay and remuneration. You have the Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. You have the Ministry of Labour and Productivity. You have the Clerk of the National Assembly, the Registrar of the Supreme Court. So you have a body of about 26 people. And it's because the public service is wider than the civil service. So the civil service is the ministries. The public service includes the judiciary, includes the administrative arm of the National Assembly, includes even the immigration, customs, the military. So all of these people are represented on this committee, and they take decisions about how the public service should move forward and the issues that we should consider. So the Bureau works through that committee.
Now, there's been a lot of privatization going on lately, yes. And, it's caused intense global reactions from certain quarters. Even citizens have had to argue the intentions of some of those privatization we've seen from power. We talked about refineries. And it's actually more in the developing countries that you find a lot of public enterprise, because when you see private sectors, the resources are not adequate enough, to cater for citizens. So just demystify, that area a little bit, because it seems to actually be a worrying thought for a lot of people.
I think you've actually demystified it. I think your insight is actually quite informed. But let me come back to what I said earlier, which is that the primary purpose must be, what do citizens get? Because as a citizen, I'm an ordinary Nigerian like everybody else. I just want power. I'm not bothered who provides it. I just want power 24/7. I want water 24/7. I want security 24/7. I want good roads. So I'm not going to get into that ideological debate as to whether it should be provided by government or the private sector or even NGOs and charities. I just want it to work. And for us, that remains our guiding focus. It must be, what does the Nigerian man and woman on the street experience from government? What matters is what works. If the private sector is better at delivering it, like has been done in the telecommunications industry, let them do it. If the public sector is better at doing it, let them do it. But the important thing is, what does the citizen experience? Through a review of developing countries, like you've said, the issue of privatization has had mixed reviews. In some cases, some countries have accused the privatization process of being just an opportunity to sell off government assets to political cronies, particularly as some of those public organizations being privatized are actually worth more in terms of their landed assets in Nigeria and abroad than as a going concern. So when you sell a public organization for X amount, actually the value of the assets they have may be worth much more than what you sell it as. And then there are issues of asset stripping. There are people who have bought private organizations that just stripped the assets and sold it and pocketed the money. But there have also been successes in terms of privatization. So it's been the history of privatization in developing countries has been mixed. The one thing though that people need to get away from is the idea that public sector is good, private sector, public sector is bad, private sector is good. That is not necessarily the case. I still receive very poor services from the private sector in Nigeria. I was very glad that the National Civil Aviation Authority yesterday wrote a very strongly worded letter to aero contractors about the way it treats its citizens. Now that is not a public sector organization, it's a private sector organization. I was traveling on the 30th of December and I thought, I'm going to give my wife a treat. I'm going to buy us a business class ticket to go from Lagos to Enugu. And I bought the ticket with my savings, got to Lagos, and I was just told, there's no business class on this flight. And I said, well, you sold the ticket. Oh, okay, so what do we do? Okay, can I have my money back? Well, you need to go to the ticketing desk in order to get your money back. No apologies, nothing. I got to the ticketing desk. The woman takes 15 minutes to serve each person, just to sell the ticket. Having queued for half an hour, I got in front of her, and she said, it's my colleagues. It's my colleague that deals with refunds. They were sitting as close to each other as you are. And I said, okay, so give it to her. No, you need to go and join the other queue. And I said, I'm not doing that. Unless you deal with it, I'm not moving from this place, and you will not sell any other tickets until you deal with my issue. Because it wasn't an issue that was caused by me, it was caused by you. You sold a business class ticket when you knew you didn't have a flight, you didn't apologize. All I want is my refund so I can go to where I want to get to. She said she wasn't going to do it, so we sat there for 10 minutes until she actually passed it to her colleague, and I got my money back. That is the private sector. Medview Airlines.
Now, doctor, that's an experience most Nigerians, have with some of these service providers, private service providers. Now, what is your bureau doing to motivate agencies, to change and embrace reforms to the extent that the private sector, will be regulated to deliver good service?
Well, what we can do is to work with those agencies that regulate those aspects of the private sector, because we are a bureau of public service reforms. So, but what we can do is work with agencies like NCAA that regulates the performance of these private sector organizations, work with the central bank that regulates the banking sector. Those are some of the things we can do. But we are also partnering with the Servicom office in the presidency, again, to try and carry this message of service delivery through to the private sector.
All right, now let's just, before we draw the curtain call, what are the challenges facing the BPSR? What are the challenges, and how do you hope to look at ways to take care of it?
Well, one of the challenges is, of course, funding, but that's a challenge for everybody. So that's not ingenious. But we wish we had more money to do more things. But coming into the government in the last 3 months or so, one of the things I've actually found most shocking is how little people within the system think about people outside. It's always about us and our training and our capacity building, and we want to go on strike because we want to get more money. It's never about, okay, what about the patients? in the hospital? What about the students in the university? So that's a big thing that we need to work on, change that orientation and make it focused on citizens. We also need to change the cynicism on the part of Nigeria that nothing can work. Some things actually work, and we need to get more things to work.
All right, thank you, Dr. Abah. It was a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be looking at, of course, public enterprise in the way forward. And we've had Dr. Abah talk to us about it. In an environment where excellence is hardly expected, they have a lot of work to do to bring that into power. We'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll be looking at foreign policy expectation in 2014. Stay with us.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
Exciting and breathtaking experience with Kakaaki, the African voice.